Imagine stepping into the captivating world of history, where monumental events unfold before your eyes. Welcome to Moments in History, the channel that takes you on an extraordinary journey through time. In this episode, we invite you to immerse yourself in the intriguing tale of a legendary figure. So what if you could witness the rise of an empire and the art of conquest? Get ready as we explore the story of Napoleon Bonaparte. Chapter 1. Napoleon charges forward and encourages his troops for a fight. Napoleon's ambitious quest for power and dominance unfolded across the late 18th and 19th centuries, characterized by a relentless drive to expand his empire and secure his place in history. From the sun-drenched landscapes of Italy to the snow-covered plains of Russia, Napoleon's audacious military endeavors played out on a staggering scale. The history continues to give us the echoes of his feared name and his strong desire to crush his enemy. His name resonates powerfully throughout time, as do his wars, known for their grandeur, strategic brilliance, and lasting impact. He raises his sword against the enemy standing in the front lines, leading his allies through the battlefield, encouraging them to call out the beast inside them. Are you ready to witness the greatest battle of all times? As the French Revolution roiled the continent, Napoleon capitalized on the spirit of nationalism and revolutionary fervor to fuel his conquests. These were no ordinary skirmishes, but epic clashes that tested the mettle of nations. The tactical brilliance and audacity of Napoleon as a military commander were showcased in the clash of armies, the maneuvering of forces, and the strategies he employed. Each engagement, from the iconic battles of Austerlitz and Jena to the desperate struggles of Waterloo and Borodino, became a pivotal moment in history, yet the impact of Napoleon's wars extended beyond the battlefield. Political alliances were reshaped, borders were redrawn, and European society underwent a transformation. The Napoleonic Code, which revolutionized legal systems, the spread of nationalism, and the rise of modern warfare, were just a few examples of the far-reaching consequences. Even to this day, the reverberations of these wars continue to be felt. The echoes of greatness still resonate, and the spirit of Napoleon Bonaparte lives on. Chapter 2. Flashbacks. In a whirlwind of triumphs and ambition, one man's meteoric rise would shape the destiny of an entire continent. Born in 1769 on the island of Corsica, Napoleon demonstrated remarkable military acumen even from his youth. His strategic brilliance and exceptional leadership abilities swiftly came to shape the course of European history. The French Revolution proved to be the crucible where Napoleon's military successes began to crystallize, earning him a reputation as a capable and innovative commander. Notably, his early victories in Italy, such as the Battle of Lodi and the Battle of Arcole, provided glimpses of his tactical genius and his unparalleled ability to inspire his troops. These triumphs not only solidified his standing as a prodigious military mind, but also laid a firm foundation for the campaigns that would follow. With the burgeoning of his influence, Napoleon's ambition expanded in tandem. He perceived the boundless potential for French dominance across the European continent, and his subsequent campaigns echoed this audacious vision. Among his most remarkable military conquests stood the Battle of Austerlitz, where he achieved a resounding victory against the combined forces of Austria and Russia. This triumph not only secured his position, but also propelled his ambitions for territorial expansion. Key battles and meticulously planned campaigns etched the landscape of Napoleon's early years, each contributing to the relentless growth of his empire, from the resolute victory at the Battle of Marengo, where Austrian forces in Italy were vanquished, to the decisive triumph of the Battle at Jena-Austedt, which swiftly crushed the Persian resistance. Napoleon's indomitable military prowess prowess seemed to defy all odds. These battles exemplified his unparalleled ability to exploit weaknesses, adapt to ever-changing circumstances, and deftly outmaneuver his adversaries. Chapter 3: Napoleon's Military Success. Amidst a clash of mighty armies, a strategic genius would test his mettle against formidable opponents, leaving an indelible mark on the annals of warfare. Firstly, we have Napoleon's renowned forces, the Grande Armée. They stood as a military machine of exceptional prowess, brimming with disciplined soldiers. The Grande Armée embodied unwavering loyalty and an unwavering determination to follow their revered leader. Their infantry displayed exceptional drill and discipline, while the cavalry showcased remarkable skill. Furthermore, Napoleon's innovative use of artillery became a hallmark of his strategies. With his strategic command, the Grande Armée exhibited remarkable cohesion and adaptability on the battlefield. Complementing their military might, the French enjoyed the advantages of a centralized command structure and a well-established system of logistics. This allowed Napoleon to swiftly mobilize and deploy his forces, granting him a significant edge in terms of speed and precision. On the other side, the opposing armies were no strangers to warfare. The Austrian Empire, Prussia, Russia, and the British Empire each possessed battle-hardened troops, each with their distinct strengths. Drawing upon their extensive experience, tactical acumen, and deep-rooted military traditions, these forces presented formidable challenges to Napoleon's ambitions. The Austrians boasted a formidable cavalry and were recognized for their disciplined formations. Prussian soldiers were renowned for their steadfastness and unwavering commitment to duty. The Russians, with their vast numbers and expansive territories, adopted a strategy of attrition, aiming to exhaust and outlast their adversaries. Lastly, the British Empire's forces, particularly their navy, held an exceptional reputation for their strength at sea, challenging Napoleon's aspirations of European dominance and disrupting his overseas trade routes. Chapter 4: Napoleon Political Ambitions. In the midst of war and conquest, a visionary leader embarked on a relentless quest for power, forever reshaping the political landscape of Europe. From the moment he declared himself first consul of France in 1799, effectively assuming control of the government, Napoleon aimed to consolidate power and implement significant reforms that would reshape the political landscape. In 1804, he took a momentous step by proclaiming himself Emperor of the French, symbolizing his desire for absolute authority and establishing a new era in French governance. Under Napoleon's rule, the French Empire experienced a period of intense centralization and transformation. He enacted a series of legal and administrative reforms known as the Napoleonic Code, which introduced uniform laws and principles throughout the empire. This code emphasized equality, meritocracy, and the protection of individual rights, leaving a lasting impact on the legal systems worldwide. Napoleon's political ambitions extended beyond France as he sought to redraw the map of Europe according to his vision. The establishment of the French Empire led to a coalition of nations forming against France, sparking a series of conflicts that would come to be known as the Napoleonic Wars. Napoleon's political ambitions also faced internal challenges as he consolidated power. He encountered opposition from various factions within France, who feared the concentration of authority and the erosion of republican ideals. Despite these challenges, Napoleon skillfully navigated the political landscape, balancing his autocratic rule with strategic alliances and populist policies to maintain support. The establishment of the French Empire and Napoleon's political ambitions left an indelible mark on Europe. His rule brought about significant change in governance, law, and administration. The influence of the Napoleonic Code and the principles it established spouse spread far beyond the borders of France, shaping legal systems
five,
in numerous countries to this day.
Life.
Moreover,
Napoleon's
political
maneuverings
and territorial acquisition set the stage for future conflicts and power struggles in Europe. Napoleon first met Josephine, then known as Rose de Beauharnais, in 1795. They married a year later, and their union was marked by intense affection and desire. Despite their initial infatuation, their relationship faced numerous challenges. Josephine's extravagant spending habits and rumors of her infidelity tested Napoleon's trust and patience. Nevertheless, their love endured, and Napoleon referred to her as his destiny and his only love. However, their marriage was not without its difficulties. Josephine was unable to bear Napoleon any children, a fact that caused great distress for both of them. Napoleon, with his desire for a male heir to secure his dynasty, reluctantly divorced Josephine in 1809, ending their romantic relationship but maintaining a deep emotional bond. He had 4 brothers and 3 sisters, each of whom had varying levels of involvement in his political and military endeavors. His brothers, most notably Joseph and Louis, held important positions within Napoleon's empire. Joseph served as King of Naples and later King of Spain, while Louis became King of Holland. His mother, Letizia, played a crucial role in his upbringing and remained a constant presence throughout his life. She provided him with unwavering support and advice, even during his most challenging moments. His siblings, particularly his brother Lucien, often vied for power and influence, causing tensions within the family circle. Napoleon's relationship with Josephine stands as a testament to the complexities of love, sacrifice, and personal ambition. While their marriage ultimately ended, the emotional bond they shared remained until Napoleon's death in 1821. Chapter 6. Small Peak of the Battle. In the heart of the battlefield, where bravery and uncertainty intertwined, the outcome of a fierce clash hung in the balance, igniting a symphony of suspense and valor. As the forces clashed on the field, a palpable sense of suspense filled the air. Each engagement held the promise of revealing the course of the battle, enveloping the scene in an atmosphere of anticipation and uncertainty. Valiant soldiers fought with unwavering determination, fueled by a potent mix of resolve, fear, and adrenaline. The clash of weapons echoed, creating a symphony of chaos and desperation. Strategies were put to the ultimate test, as both sides sought to outmaneuver and outwit their opponents. Every advantage was pursued with vigor, heightening the stakes of the conflict. Amidst the chaos, the tides of battle swung back and forth. Advancements were met with fierce resistance, and seemingly impregnable positions were exposed as vulnerable. Unexpected moments emerged, catching both sides off guard and injecting new elements of suspense in the unfolding narrative. Commanders, ever watchful, closely monitored the evolving events, making split-second decisions that held the power to reshape the course of the battle. Their leadership and tactical choices became crucial factors in determining the ultimate outcome. Throughout the arduous struggle, soldiers witnessed moments of triumph and despair. Courageous individuals emerged from the chaos, displaying acts of heroism that inspired their comrades and shifted the dynamics of the fight. The fate of the battle teetered on these critical moments, heightening the suspense for all involved. In this maelstrom of war, the air cracked with anticipation, and the participants grappled with the uncertainties of the battlefield. Chapter 7. Introduction to his enemies. In the face of Napoleon's relentless march, a coalition of formidable adversaries arose, each wielding their own arsenal of strength and determination, challenging his aspirations of European dominance. To fully grasp the magnitude of Napoleon's wars, we must delve into the formidable opponents he encountered. These adversaries, each with their distinct strengths and motivations, played a pivotal role in shaping the outcomes of these momentous conflicts. First among them was the Austrian Empire, led by the indomitable Emperor Francis II. Renowned for his discipline, tactile prowess, and rich military heritage, the Austrians boasted a formidable army. Their forces comprised highly trained foot soldiers, impressive cavalry units, and a well-organized command structure. With vast territories and strategic alliances, the Austrian Empire posed a significant challenge to Napoleon's ambitions. Another prominent opponent was the Kingdom of Prussia, fueled by King Frederick William III. Although initially outmatched, the Prussian army displayed remarkable determination and adaptability. They developed new military tactics and implemented reforms to counter Napoleon's strategies, making their resistance a force to be reckoned with. In the east, Napoleon confronted the mighty Russian Empire, commanded by Tsar Alexander I. Russia, with its expansive landmass and unyielding spirit, presented a unique obstacle to Napoleon's conquests. The Russian army employed unconventional tactics, including the strategic burning of their own lands and retreating deeper into their vast territory. These tactics aimed to thwart Napoleon's forces and deny them decisive victories, posing a formidable challenge to his ambitions. Not to be overlooked was the powerful British Empire, ruled by King George III. It was the British Navy that emerged as a significant barrier to Napoleon's dreams of European dominance. Known for their naval supremacy, the British Navy thwarted Napoleon's attempts to invade the British Isles and disrupted his overseas trade routes. Chapter 8: Battles and Relationship with French. In the tumultuous aftermath of revolution, a nation's quest for liberty ignited a conflagration that engulfed Europe, pitting ideals against empires in a relentless struggle for dominance and survival. Throughout history, wars have played a profound role in shaping the destiny of nations, leaving an enduring impact on humanity. These conflicts, with their intricate layers, encompass both the triumphs of human achievement and the depths of human suffering. To truly grasp the significance of the Napoleonic Wars, we must embark on a broader exploration of the concept of warfare itself. Wars have been woven into the tapestry of human existence since the earliest civilizations. Ancient legends and folklore bear testament to mythical conflicts that captivated the imagination. These tales depict battles fought for a myriad of reasons, ranging from the pursuit of power and glory to the defense of territories and ideologies. Over time, the nature of wars evolved, progressing from primitive clashes to elaborate military campaigns. Vast armies, advanced weaponry, and intricate strategies became integral components of the monumental struggles. Yet wars are a paradoxical phenomenon, wielding a dual-edged sword. While they possess the potential to bring about change, foster progress, and safeguard freedoms, their consequences exact a heavy toll. The ravages of war are manifold, encompassing the loss of countless lives, the destruction of once vibrant cities, the displacement of populations, and the enduring scars imprinted on societies and individuals. The Napoleonic Wars unfolded as a culmination of intricate political, social, and economic factors, far from occurring in isolation. Triggered by the French Revolution's eruption in 1789, Europe stood at a precipice of change. The revolutionary ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity sent shockwaves across the continent, challenging the established order. As France, under the leadership of revolutionary factions, endeavored to export these principles and extend its influence, tensions and rivalries flared with other European powers. The pursuit of territorial control, conflicting economic interests, and deep-seated ideological differences further stoked the flames of animosity. Thus, the context of the Napoleonic Wars became intricately interwoven with the aftermath of the French Revolution and the ensuing power struggles. Yet the resonant echoes of victory did not subside with Austerlitz alone. Another hallowed battlefield etched its mark upon history, the Battle of Jena-Auerstedt, a monumental clash that erupted on October 14, 1806, pitting Napoleon's forces against the Prussian war machine. Guided by the brilliant tapestry of strategic brilliance and military sagacity, Napoleon's army swept aside the Prussian resistance with an unwavering resolve. The seismic repercussions of this resounding triumph reverberated far and wide, shattering the foundation of Prussian military might and paving the way for France's inexorable expansion across the European theater. Amidst this tumultuous tide of conflict, the Battle of Friedland emerged as another hallowed engagement, its name emblazoned in the annals of martial valor. On June 14, 1807, Napoleon's forces clashed fiercely with the Russian army led by General Benningsen. In a symphony of audacious maneuvering and relentless onslaughts, Napoleon emerged victorious, his banners billowing triumphantly upon the field of battle. The echoes of this conquest reverberated far beyond the blood-soaked soil, culminating in the signing of the Treaty of Tilsit, an ephemeral accord that temporarily appeased the tempestuous relationship between France and Russia. However, the swirling currents of fate soon ushered a tempestuous turning point, the Battle of the Nile. In a clash of titanic naval forces, Admiral Nelson's British fleet emerged victorious, crippling Napoleon's dreams of Egyptian conquest and compelling him to abandon his ambitions, returning instead to the shores of France. Throughout the tumultuous years, Napoleon's campaigns blazed across the pages of history with a resolute intensity, painting the canvas of warfare with swift and decisive strokes. His innovative integration of artillery, ingenious employment of combined arms tactics, and unparalleled ability to exploit weaknesses in his adversaries all contributed to his meteoric rise on the battlefield. These pivotal battles and campaigns became the vivid tapestry through which Napoleon's military genius illuminated the world, showcasing his unmatched prowess as a leader and his unwavering ambition to forge a French hegemony that would endure the test of time. Yet in the shadows of these triumphant moments, seeds of resistance were sown, laying the groundwork for future conflicts that would ultimately challenge the rule of the enigmatic emperor. The continental system implemented by Napoleon Bonaparte in 1806 was an ambitious economic policy aimed at isolating Britain and undermining its economy. The primary objective of the system was to cut off British trade with the European continent, depriving it of vital resources and weakening its global influence. The system established a comprehensive blockade that prohibited European countries under French control from trading with Britain or allowing British goods into their territories. The blockade extended across the entire continental landmass, including France and its satellite states. The implementation of the continental system had far-reaching implications for European nations. On one hand, it aimed to weaken Britain's economy and force it to surrender politically and economically. However, the system also had unintended consequences for the nations of continental Europe. While some countries initially complied with the system due to their dependence on French military and economic support, the long-term effects were detrimental to their economies. Some countries, particularly those under French control, had limited options and were forced to comply with the system. However, resistance movements emerged in regions where the system had the greatest economic impact. These movements aimed to undermine the blockade and restore trade with Britain. The effectiveness of the continental system was ultimately undermined by the inability to fully enforce the blockade and the persistence of smuggling activities. The continental system, conceived as a strategic economic policy to weaken Britain, had significant economic repercussions for European nations. While its objective were to isolate Britain and enhance French power, the system caused economic hardships for many countries. The decline in trade, shortages of goods, and the rise of smuggling disrupted economies across the continent. Resistance to the system grew, reflecting the discontent and desire to restore trade relations with Britain. The continental system, while an ambitious endeavor, ultimately demonstrated the limitations of economic warfare and highlighted the interconnectedness of European economies.
Things Napoleon did. Unravel the web of intrigue and economic turmoil as Napoleon Bonaparte devises the continental system, a game-changing policy that triggers a battle for trade and survival among European nations. The implementation of the continental system, devised by Napoleon Bonaparte, had significant economic consequences for European nations during the early 19th century. This policy aimed to isolate Britain and weaken its economy by imposing comprehensive blockade that restricted trade between European countries under French control and Britain. However, the economic impact of the continental system was not limited to its intended target. One of the major consequences of the continental system was the decline in trade for European nations involved. The restriction on trading with Britain, a major economic power at the time, disrupted established trade networks and led to a decrease in the volume of goods exchanged. This decline in trade had severe repercussions on various sectors of the economy, particularly those reliant on international commerce. Industries such as textiles, manufacturing, and shipping experienced significant setbacks as demand for their goods diminished. Moreover, the continental system resulted in shortages of vital goods and resources in many European countries. With British goods effectively barred from the European market, countries faced difficulties in obtaining essential supplies. This led to scarcity, increased prices, and disrupt production processes. Industries that relied on raw materials imported from Britain, such as cotton for textile manufacturing, were particularly affected. The scarcity of resources hindered economic growth and stifled industrial development. Additionally, the economic consequences of the continental system were not uniform across all European nations. Some countries, such as France and its satellite states, initially benefited from the policy as they had captive market and were shielded from foreign competition. Furthermore, the continental system led to the rise of smuggling as individuals and merchants sought to bypass the blockade and continue trade with Britain. While the continental system aimed to weaken Britain, it ultimately demonstrated the interconnectedness of European economies and the difficulty of isolating a major economic power. Some European nations initially adhered to the continental system, either out of fear of French retaliation or as a result of economic and political alliances with France. These countries imposed restrictions on trade with Britain, implemented customs regulations to enforce the blockade, and attempted to foster self-sufficiency within their own economies. They hoped that compliance with the continental system would secure their positions within their French-dominated European order. However, many European nations, particularly those with strong economic ties to Britain, resisted the continental system. They sought to protect their commercial interests and maintain lucrative trade relationships. Despite the threat of French reprisals, these countries engaged in illicit trade with Britain, smuggling goods through various means to circumvent the blockade. Smuggling networks thrived, often with the tacit solicit support of local populations and authorities who sought to bypass the economic constraints imposed by the continental system. Resistance to the continental system was not limited to clandestine trade activities. Some European nations, such as Portugal and Sweden, openly defied the policy and refused to comply with its provisions. Reactions to the continental system varied within individual countries as well. While some segments of society, particularly those benefiting from protected domestic markets, supported the policy, others suffered its adverse effects and voiced their discontent. The resistance and reactions to the continental system underscored the challenges faced by Napoleon in enforcing his economic blockade. The policy faced inherent limitations due to the interconnected nature of European economies and the determination of nations to protect their interests. Smuggling, open defiance, and discontent among affected groups highlighted the difficulty of isolating a major economic power and the persistence of economic ties that transcended political barriers. Basically, the continental system encountered resistance and provoked diverse reactions among European nations. While some countries initially complied with the policy, others engaged in smuggling and open defiance to protect their economic interests. The discontent of affected industries and segments of society further demonstrated the limitations and unintended consequences of the continental system. Ultimately, the resistance and restrictions to the policy emphasized the intricate web of economic connections and the challenges of imposing a comprehensive economic blockade. In a tumultuous era of power struggles and territorial ambitions, witnessed the epic clash between France and Spain in the Peninsular War, where resilient resistance and unexpected alliances redefined the course of history. As the flames of conflict spread, the emergence of the Sixth Coalition sets a stage for an all-out battle to curtail Napoleon's dominance and restore balance to Europe. The Peninsular War, a major conflict during the early 19th century, was characterized by a fierce and protracted struggle between France and Spain. This war emerged from the power dynamics of the Napoleonic era, as Napoleon Bonaparte sought to extend French influence and control over Spain. However, the Spanish people fiercely resisted the French occupation, leading to a long and bloody confrontation. The conflict between France and Spain was driven by various factors. France, under Napoleon's rule, aimed to solidify its dominance over Europe and saw Spain as a key component of its empire. However, the Spanish population fiercely opposed French control, viewing it as an assault on their sovereignty and national identity. The Spanish resistance movement, known as the guerrillas, arose to combat the French occupation. The guerrillas employed guerrilla warfare tactics, launching surprise attacks, engaging in hit-and-run raids, and blending into the local terrain. The conflict between France and Spain had a profound impact on both nations. Spain's resistance against the French occupation sparked a sense of national unity and patriotism among the Spanish people. The war became a symbol of their fight for independence and became deeply ingrained in the country's collective memory. The Spanish resistance also drew support from other European powers, such as Britain, who saw an opportunity to challenge French hegemony and aid the Spanish cause. The conflict in the Iberian Peninsula drew international attention and involvement. It transformed into a wider struggle as other European powers recognized the importance of preventing French dominance. British forces under the command of the Duke of Wellington played a significant role in supporting the Spanish resistance and coordinating military campaigns against the French. The conflict became a focal point for the British to confront Napoleon's expansionist ambitions and protect their own interests. The French-Spanish conflict in the Peninsular War proved to be a formidable challenge for Napoleon. The Spanish resistance, with their unconventional tactics and fierce determination, posed a significant threat to French control. The war became a drain on French resources, both in terms of manpower and material. It also diverted Napoleon's attention and resources away from other military campaigns and strategic objectives. conflicts. The Peninsular War, a conflict between France and Spain, drew the involvement of several other European powers. The engagement of external forces significantly shaped the course and outcome of the war. As the conflict escalated, it became clear that the Peninsular War was not solely a struggle between France and Spain, but a broader confrontation with far-reaching implications. One of the key players in the Peninsular War was Great Britain. The British saw an opportunity to challenge French hegemony and support the Spanish resistance against Napoleon's forces. British involvement in the war took various forms, including financial assistance, military support, and coordination of military campaigns. The British deployed their troops under the command of the Duke of Wellington, who played a crucial role in leading successful campaigns against the French and coordinating efforts with the Spanish resistance. The British forces brought valuable expertise, resources, and naval superiority to the conflict, greatly bolstering the resistance against the French. Portugal also played a significant role in the Peninsular War. The Portuguese were staunch opponents of French occupation and faced their own struggles against French forces. With British assistance, Portugal became a vital base for launching attacks and supporting the wider Spanish resistance. The Portuguese people's determination to defend their land and sovereignty added strength to the overall coalition against the French. Other European powers also became involved in the Peninsular War, albeit to varying degrees. These included Austria, Prussia, and Russia, who sought to challenge French dominance and preserve the balance of power in Europe. The involvement of other European powers not only added military strength to the resistance against France, but also had wider geopolitical implications. The Peninsular War became part of the larger Napoleonic conflict that engulfed Europe, with various powers aligning against Napoleon's expansionist ambitions. The war in the Iberian Peninsula tied up French resources, diverted Napoleon's attention, and contributed to the overall erosion of his empire. The formation of the Sixth Coalition against France marked a critical juncture in the Napoleonic Wars, as it symbolized the unified efforts of various European powers to challenge Napoleon's dominance. The coalition emerged in response to Napoleon's growing ambitions, territorial expansions, and perceived threat to the balance of power in Europe. The seeds of the coalition were sown during Napoleon's earlier military campaigns and conquests. The initial resistance came from Spain, where the Spanish people rose up against French occupation, fueling a fervent nationalistic spirit that inspired others to join the cause. Spain's resistance served as a rallying cry for other European nations who were wary of Napoleon's increasing influence and sought to protect their own interests. The formation of the Sixth Coalition was facilitated by diplomatic negotiations and alliances forged among the participating nations. Russia, under the leadership of Tsar Alexander I, played a crucial role in mobilizing support against France. Prussia, Austria, and Britain joined forces with Russia, forming a formidable coalition that aimed to challenge Napoleon's military might. The coalition members shared a common goal of curbing French expansionism and restoring stability in Europe. They were driven by a desire to safeguard their own territories, protect their sovereignty, and preserve the principles of the existing international order. The coalition's formation was also motivated by the belief that the unchecked power of a single nation posed a threat to the delicate balance of power that had been established in Europe. By joining forces, the coalition sought to leverage their combined military strength, resources, and strategic advantages to counter Napoleon's forces. The formation of the Sixth Coalition demonstrated a collective determination to resist French hegemony and signaled a shift in the political landscape of Europe. It represented a united front against Napoleon's aggressive ambitions and marked a significant step towards his ultimate downfall. The major battles and campaigns of the Sixth Coalition against France were crucial turning points in the Napoleonic Wars, as they determined the fate of Napoleon's empire and the course of European history. One of the most significant battles of this coalition was the Battle of Leipzig. also known as the Battle of Nations. The Battle of Leipzig, fought from October 16th to October 19th, 1813, was a massive confrontation that involved hundreds of thousands of troops from various nations. It was a culmination of the coalition's efforts to defeat Napoleon and liberate Europe from his control. The battle took place near Leipzig in Saxony, which was strategically important as it lay at the crossroads of several key supply routes. The coalition forces, led by the commanders of Russia, Prussia, Austria, and Sweden, assembled a formidable army to confront Napoleon's forces. The battle saw intense fighting, with both sides fiercely vying for dominance. The coalition employed a coordinated strategy, exploited their numerical advantage, and utilizing diverse military tactics. The Battle of Leipzig was characterized by its scale and ferocity. It was a prolonged and grueling conflict, marked by heavy casualties on both sides. The coalition forces made significant progress in pushing back Napoleon's troops, gradually gaining the upper hand. The battle proved to be a turning point in the Napoleonic Wars, as it showcased the vulnerability of Napoleon's empire and the determination of the coalition to defeat him. The defeat at Leipzig dealt a severe blow to Napoleon's military power and shattered the myth of his invincibility. It resulted in a significant loss of French forces and weakened Napoleon's grip on Europe. The battle also highlighted the effectiveness of the coalition's strategy of coordinated attacks and their ability to capitalize on Napoleon's strategic mistakes. The Battle of Leipzig marked a pivotal moment in the Napoleonic Wars and the decline of Napoleon's empire. It was the largest battle in European history up to that point, involving over 500,000 soldiers. The coalition's victory at Leipzig further emboldened their resolve. Chapter 11, and paved the way for Russia and Napoleon's that ultimately led to the invasion of Russia. Was a significant military campaign undertaken by Napoleon Bonaparte, which had far-reaching consequences for both his empire and European history. To understand the context of this invasion, we must delve into the events leading up to it, including the signing of the Treaty of Tilsit. Let's get deeper to understand this. The Treaty of Tilsit, signed in 1807, marked a crucial turning point in the relationship between France and Russia. Following Napoleon's victory in the Battle of Friedland, Emperor Alexander I of Russia sought peace and entered into negotiations with Napoleon. The treaty established a short-lived alliance between the two powers and effectively divided Europe into spheres of influence. It allowed France to consolidate its control over much of continental Europe, while granting Russia certain territorial gains and maintaining a fragile balance of power. However, the peace established by the Treaty of Tilsit was fraught with underlying tensions and conflicting interests. Despite the apparent friendship between Napoleon and Alexander, their ambitions and aspirations remained fundamentally different. Napoleon sought to exert his dominance and expand his empire, while Alexander aimed to protect Russian sovereignty and maintain a degree of independence. The events leading up to the invasion can be traced back to the deteriorating relationship between France and Russia. Tensions escalated as Napoleon's continental system, an economic blockade aimed at isolating Britain, began to affect Russian trade and economic interests. In addition, the failure to resolve various disputes, including conflicting claims over territories, further strained their alliance. The invasion of Russia in 1812 was a culmination of these mounting tensions and Napoleon's desire to bring Russia under his control. The campaign was launched with grand ambitions and a massive army, known as the Grande Armée, which comprised troops from France and its allied nations. Napoleon believed that a swift and decisive victory would force Alexander to comply with his demands. However, the invasion proved to be a grueling and costly endeavor. The vastness of the Russian territory, the harsh climate, and the Russian strategy of employing a scorched earth policy made it incredibly challenging for the French forces to sustain their advance. The campaign ultimately culminated in the decisive Battle of Borodino, where both sides suffered heavy casualties. Although the French emerged as the victors, the battle did not deliver the decisive blow that Napoleon had hoped for. The campaign during the invasion of Russia was marked by a series of strategic maneuvers, culminating in the decisive Battle of Borodino. This battle would become one of the most significant clashes in the Napoleonic Wars, shaping the course of the campaign and leaving a lasting impact on both sides. As the French forces advanced deeper into Russian territory, they encountered resistance and faced logistical challenges. The Russian strategy focused on avoiding direct engagement with the formidable Grande Armée, instead adopting a strategy of attrition and scorched earth tactics. The Russian army, under the command of General Mikhail Kutuzov, sought to wear down the French forces and exhaust their supplies. The Battle of Borodino took place on September 7, 1812, near the village of Borodino, west of Moscow. It was a fiercely contested battle, with both sides displaying tremendous courage and determination. The French forces, led by Napoleon himself, aimed to deliver a decisive blow to the Russian army and secure significant victory. The battle commenced with intense artillery bombardments, shaking the battlefield and causing heavy casualties on both sides. The French forces launched several coordinated attacks, attempting to break through the Russian defensive lines. The Russian army, though outnumbered, fiercely resisted the French onslaught, showcasing their tenacity and resilience. The Battle of Borodino proved to be a turning point in the campaign. Although Napoleon gained control of Moscow shortly after the battle, the Russian strategy of attrition and the refusal to engage in a decisive confrontation had taken its toll on the Grande Armée. The French forces faced significant challenges in maintaining their supply lines and sustaining their occupation of Russian territory. Following the inconclusive Battle of Borodino and the occupation of Moscow, the French forces found themselves in a precarious position as winter approached and the Russian army regrouped. The retreat from Russia was marked by a series of hardships and challenges that tested the resilience of the Grande Armée. As the harsh Russian winter set in, the French soldiers were ill-prepared for the extreme conditions they encountered. The lack of adequate winter clothing, provisions, and shelter led to widespread suffering and a sharp decline in morale. The Russian army, emboldened by their successful defensive strategies and the arrival of reinforcements, pursued the retreating French forces. They engaged in frequent skirmishes and launched relentless attacks on the vulnerable and demoralized troops. The relentless Russian pursuit further exacerbated the dire situation faced by the Grande Armée. The retreat was marked by scenes of devastation and despair. The harsh winter conditions, coupled with the constant harassment from the Russian forces, resulted in a staggering loss of life among the retreating French soldiers. The lack of supplies and the inability to secure sustenance led to widespread hunger and disease, further decimating the ranks of the Grande Armée. Napoleon, realizing the dire predicament his army faced, made the difficult decision to abandon Moscow and initiate the retreat. The retreat turned into a desperate race for survival as the French forces sought to escape the clutches of the pursuing Russian army and reach territories where they could find respite and reinforcements. The catastrophic retreat from Russia had profound effects on Napoleon's empire. It dealt a severe blow to the military might and prestige of the Grande Armée, which had previously been seen as invincible. The losses incurred during the retreat significantly weakened Napoleon's forces and depleted the pool of experienced soldiers. The retreat also shattered the myth of Napoleon's invincibility and exposed vulnerabilities in his military strategy. Furthermore, the retreat from Russia eroded the confidence and support of Napoleon's allies and subjected his empire to increased scrutiny and criticism. The news of the disastrous campaign spread throughout Europe, emboldening opposition forces and triggering a shift in the balance of power on the continent. As the echoes of Napoleon's triumphant return to France reverberated across the nation, a wave of anticipation and uncertainty swept through the population. The 100 Days had begun, and with it came the resurgence of Napoleon's rule. The news of his escape from exile on the island of Elba spread like wildfire, igniting hope among his supporters and causing anxiety among his adversaries. Napoleon wasted no time in making his presence felt. He skillfully navigated through the political landscape, capitalizing capitalizing on the discontentment and disillusionment with the Bourbon monarchy. His charisma and magnetic personality won over the hearts of many who yearned for a strong leader. With each step he took, the reinstatement of his rule seemed more inevitable. The French people, torn between loyalty to the Bourbons and their admiration for Napoleon, found themselves at a crossroads. Some greeted him with open arms, eager to embrace the return of the man who had once transformed France into a formidable empire. Others, wary of the consequences that his rule might bring, viewed his return with trepidation. Napoleon leveraged his popularity and swiftly regained control of the government. He dismantled the Bourbon regime and established a new order, once again placing himself at the helm of French affairs. His return sparked a renewed sense of national pride and ambition as the French people rallied behind their charismatic leader. However, his reinstatement also sparked fear and concern among the European powers. The monarchies that had sought to contain his influence saw his return as a threat to the balance of power. The stage was set for a clash that would determine the fate of Napoleon and the course of European history. As Napoleon's return to power set the wheels in motion, the world watched with bated breath to see how events would unfold. The 100 Days had begun, and the trajectory of Napoleon's rule hung in the balance. It was a time of political intrigue, military maneuvers, and a nation on the brink of transformation. The Battle of Waterloo marked the turning point in Napoleon's grand ambitions and sealing his ultimate downfall. It was a clash of titans, as Napoleon faced off against a coalition of European powers determined to halt his expansionist ambitions. The stage was set on June 18, 1815, in present-day Belgium, as the forces of Napoleon and the Duke of Wellington prepared to engage in a battle that would shape the course of Europe. The battle was fiercely contested, with both sides displaying immense valor and strategic prowess. The outcome hung in the balance, but ultimately it was the coordinated efforts of the Allied forces and their unwavering resolve that proved decisive. The Battle of Waterloo marked the culmination of a series of military campaigns and signaled the end of Napoleon's dominance. It shattered the myth of his invincibility and dealt a severe blow to his aspirations of European conquest. The defeat at Waterloo had far-reaching consequences, not only for Napoleon, but also for the future of Europe. It led to his abdication and subsequent exile to the remote island of St. Helena, where he would spend the remaining years of his life. The significance of the Battle of Waterloo extended beyond its immediate impact on Napoleon's fate. It symbolized the triumph of collective action and the resilience of the European powers in the face of a formidable adversary. The battle marked the end of an era, closing the chapter on Napoleon's ambitious dreams of empire and ushering in a new era of balance, triumph, defeat, and a fight for redemption. As a stark reminder of the extraordinary journey of Napoleon Bonaparte as he endured to the remote island of St. Helena, where the fallen emperor's dreams of regaining power clashed with the harsh realities of isolation and confinement. Following his decisive defeat at the Battle of Waterloo, Napoleon faced his final and most profound setback: exile to the remote island of St. Helena. The defeat marked the end of his reign and dashed any hopes of regaining power. The victors, wary of the threat Napoleon posed, were determined to ensure his permanent removal from the European stage. Thus, the decision was made to exile him to a distant and isolated island far away from the centers of power and influence. In October 1815, Napoleon was transported to St. Helena, a small volcanic island in the South Atlantic Ocean. The isolation and harsh conditions of the island served as a stark contrast to the grandeur and power he once possessed. Stripped of his titles and authority, Napoleon was now a captive, confined to a small residence known as Longwood House. During his exile, Napoleon's days were filled with a mix of reflection, frustration, and longing for the glory he had lost. He devoted his time to writing his memoirs, contemplating his past triumphs, and contemplating what might have been. Despite the limitations of his circumstances, Napoleon maintained an active intellectual life, engaging in discussions with his companions and staying updated on on current events through newspapers and correspondence. The years in exile, however, took a toll on Napoleon's health. His physical condition deteriorated, and he suffered from various ailments. The isolation and sense of confinement weighed heavily on his spirit. In May 1821, at the age of 51, Napoleon Bonaparte passed away on St. Helena. Napoleon's abdication and subsequent exile to the island of Elba marked a pivotal moment in his tumultuous reign and the course of European history. After suffering a series of military defeats and faced with mounting pressure from the coalition forces, Napoleon was forced to relinquish his position as Emperor of the French. On April 6, 1814, Napoleon abdicated the throne in favor of his son, Napoleon II, effectively bringing an end to the First French Empire. He chose to abdicate rather than face complete defeat and the potential destruction of Paris. In the Treaty of Fontainebleau, the Allies granted him sovereignty over the island of Elba, along with a generous pension and a small army of loyal soldiers. The exile to Elba marked a significant change in Napoleon's circumstances. From being a powerful ruler who had reshaped the political landscape of Europe, he now found himself confined to a small Mediterranean island. Elba, though isolated, provided Napoleon with some degree of autonomy and a chance to reflect on his past and plan for the future. During his time on Elba, Napoleon established a miniature court, implemented several reforms, and initiated public works projects. He also maintained contact with influential individuals and closely followed the political developments in Europe. Despite his restricted circumstances, Napoleon maintained a sense of purpose and ambition, eagerly awaiting an opportunity to regain power. However, the peace that settled in Europe after Napoleon's abdication was short-lived. The Allies soon grew wary of his presence and feared that he would attempt to regain control. Napoleon's desire for power, combined with the discontentment of some factions within France, set the stage for his dramatic return. On February 26, 1815, Napoleon escaped from Elba with a small group of loyal soldiers and sailed back to France. This event, known as the 100 Days, marked his return to the political stage and reignited the flames of conflict in Europe. The Allies quickly mobilized their forces to confront the resurgent Napoleon and protect their territories. Napoleon's abdication and subsequent exile to Elba were pivotal moments that shaped the final phase of his career. They represented a temporary setback rather than the end of his ambitions. The events that followed his exile would see him rise once again, leading to the climactic Battle of Waterloo and his ultimate defeat at the hands of the Seventh Coalition. Chapter 13. Consequences. The Napoleonic Wars had far-reaching consequences that reverberated across Europe and beyond, leaving an indelible mark on history. These conflicts reshaped the geopolitical landscape, transformed warfare, and influenced the course of diplomacy and governance. One of the most significant impacts of the Napoleonic Wars was the redrawing of national boundaries and the realignment of power dynamics in Europe. Napoleon's conquests and the subsequent collapse of his empire resulted in the re-establishment of monarchies and the restoration of old regimes. The Congress of Vienna in 1815 sought to restore stability and maintain a balance of power, setting the stage for a new era of international relations. The wars also brought about profound changes in warfare itself. Napoleon introduced tactical innovations, such as the corps system and the use of artillery, which revolutionized military strategies. The large-scale mobilization of armies and the concept of total war became prevalent, leading to significant human and material costs. These developments laid the groundwork for the modernization of armed forces and the evolution of warfare in the 19th century. Moreover, the Napoleonic Wars had a profound impact on the political and social landscape of Europe. The spread of revolutionary ideals and and nationalist sentiments during the French Revolution and the subsequent wars fueled aspirations for independence and self-determination among various European nations. These aspirations would later contribute to the wave of revolutions and nationalist movements that characterized the 19th century. In terms of governance, the Napoleonic Wars spurred administrative and legal reforms across the continent. The introduction of the Napoleonic Code, a comprehensive legal system based on the principles of equality and meritocracy, influenced legal systems in many European countries. The wars also prompted governments to establish more efficient bureaucracies and centralize power in order to effectively manage their resources and populations. The impact of the Napoleonic Wars extended beyond Europe, reaching distant parts of the world through colonial expansions and global power struggles. European powers vied for dominance in overseas territories, leading to territorial acquisitions and the redrawing of colonial boundaries. The wars also inspired independence movements in Latin America as the collapse of Spanish and Portuguese control created opportunities for liberation. The legacy of Napoleon and the Napoleonic Wars continues to be a subject of historical interpretation and debate. Some view Napoleon as a military genius and a transformative figure who left a lasting impact on Europe, while others criticize his autocratic rule and the devastating consequences of the wars. The wars' influence on art, literature, and culture cannot be understated, as they inspired artistic movements and shaped the collective memory of nations. The Napoleonic Wars brought about significant changes in warfare, diplomacy, and governance, reshaping the political and military landscape of Europe and beyond. These conflicts introduced new strategies, altered diplomatic relations, and prompted transformative reforms in governments. In terms of warfare, the Napoleonic Wars witnessed the emergence of large, conscripted armies and the concept of total war. Napoleon's military campaigns showcased the effectiveness of combined arms tactics, with the integration of infantry, artillery, and cavalry. The wars highlighted the importance of logistics and supply lines, as well as the use of fortifications. These developments set the stage for the professionalization and modernization of armed forces in the 19th century. The wars also had profound diplomatic implications. The balance of power in Europe was dramatically altered, leading to new alliances and rivalries. The Congress of Vienna in 1815 aimed to restore stability and establish a new European order. It emphasized the principle of legitimacy, seeking to reinstate legitimate monarchies and suppress revolutionary movements. The concept of a balance of power became a cornerstone of European diplomacy, shaping international relations for years to come. Governance underwent significant changes as a result of the Napoleonic Wars. The wars challenged traditional political structures and prompted administrative reforms. Napoleon's legal reforms, such as the Napoleonic Code, influenced legal systems across Europe, introducing notions of equality and individual rights. The wars also led to the centralization of power, as governments sought to mobilize resources and enhance control over their territories. The era witnessed the rise of bureaucracies and the expansion of state authority. Furthermore, the wars spurred nationalist movements and the desire for self-determination. The conflicts exposed the limitations of imperial rule and sparked aspirations for independence among various European nations. The wars created opportunities for regions to break away from imperial control and assert their own identities. These nationalist sentiments would shape the political landscape of Europe in the years to come, contributing to the rise of nation-states. Napoleon Bonaparte's legacy and the interpretation of his actions and rule continue to be the subjects of intense historical analysis and debate. His impact on Europe and the world during the Napoleonic era left a lasting imprint on politics, society, and warfare. One aspect of Napoleon's enduring legacy is his transformation of warfare. His innovative military
military strategies and tactics revolutionized the art of war. The concept of citizen soldier, combined with rapid mobilization and centralized command, set the stage for future military developments. His use of mass conscription and total war tactics paved the way for the modern nation-state's approach to warfare. Napoleon's influence extended beyond the battlefield. He implemented comprehensive reforms in law, administration, and education that continue to shape societies to this day. The Napoleonic Code, a unified legal system, introduced principles of equality, individual rights, and meritocracy. These legal reforms had a profound impact on subsequent legal systems across the globe. However, Napoleon's legacy is also mired in controversy. His expansionist ambitions in pursuit of power led to the loss of countless lives and the destabilization of Europe. Critics argue that his autocratic rule and disregard for individual freedoms undermine the ideals of the French Revolution. The vast extent of his empire and his attempts to impose French dominance sparked resistance and nationalist movements. Historical interpretations of Napoleon vary. Some view him as a brilliant military strategist and a visionary leader who brought stability and modernization to Europe. They credit him with spreading Enlightenment principles, implementing administrative reforms, and fostering economic growth. Others see him as a ruthless conqueror driven by personal ambition, whose actions led to suffering and upheaval. The interpretation of Napoleon's legacy is also influenced by cultural and national perspectives. In France, he is often celebrated as a national hero who established a strong centralized state. In countries that experienced his conquests, such as Spain and Russia, his legacy is viewed more negatively, representing oppression and imperialism. Overall, Napoleon's enduring legacy is complex and multifaceted. His impact on warfare, governance, and law is undeniable. However, his actions and rule continue to be subject to diverse historical interpretations, reflecting the complexity of his character and the far-reaching consequences of his decisions. The ongoing study and analysis of Napoleon's legacy ensure that his influence remains a topic of historical inquiry and fascination. The Napoleonic Wars were a significant period in history that encompassed various conflicts and battles. We explored the concept of wars, their impact on societies, and the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte as a charismatic leader. From the invasion of Russia to the Peninsular War and the Battle of Waterloo, we examined major events that shaped the outcome of the wars. The continental system and its economic consequences, as well as the formation of the Sixth Coalition against France, were also highlighted. The Napoleonic Wars brought about substantial changes in warfare, diplomacy, and governance, leaving a lasting impact on Europe and the world. Finally, we discussed Napoleon's enduring legacy and the various interpretations of his historical significance. Overall, the Napoleonic Wars marked a transformative era, shaping political landscapes and influencing military strategies on a global scale. They revolutionized military strategies, introduced total war, and showcased the impact of charismatic leaders. These conflicts redefined the balance of power, led to the downfall of empires, and shaped new nations. The wars also influenced diplomacy and governance, establishing new frameworks for international relations. Their enduring impact can be seen in the spread of nationalism and the promotion of liberal ideas. The Napoleonic Wars remain a subject of study and debate, offering insights into the complexities of human history and the consequences of ambitious ambitions. In conclusion, the Napoleonic Wars stand as a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity, the power of ambition, and the profound consequences of conflict. They remind us of the fragility of peace, the cost of unchecked ambitions, and the resilience of nations in the face of adversity. The legacy of Napoleon Bonaparte and the wars he waged continue to captivate our imagination, sparking discussions on leadership, the nature of power, and the pursuit of grand visions. As we reflect on this pivotal chapter in history, let us strive to learn from its lessons and work towards a world where diplomacy, cooperation, and understanding prevail over the ravages of war. We appreciate appreciate you taking the time to join us in exploring the Napoleonic Wars. We hope this journey has helped you understand the importance of these wars in history and how they shaped the world. Your interest and participation mean a lot to us. Thank you for watching and being a part of this discussion. Like if you enjoyed, and subscribe for more content like this.